I'd like to call on Bridget Allen O'Neill. And Bridget, I just met. And I'm really pleased to introduce her to speak for a few minutes because she's just received her master's in climate change development and policy from the Institute of Development Studies, an award-winning institution, highly regarded in the UK. So she's come back to us, bringing her knowledge. So let's welcome her to share a little bit about what the impact is around the world in terms of international development of climate change.
Thank you very much for listening to me today. I apologize for the last minute entry here, but I think it's a really great action that everyone's undertaking here, demonstrating how much this is an important issue to all of us from all generations. So I guess I'm just going to say a little bit about why Ontario specifically has to act on climate change from an international perspective. So obviously, as we can tell from the wildfires and the floods and the droughts that are impacting Ontario farmers, we here are being impacted by climate change today. But what is shocking to me, and perhaps shocking to you, is that Ontario is actually one of the most stable areas in the entire world in terms of climate change. What we are feeling is the most minute tip of the iceberg compared to all sorts of people all over the world. And honestly, in addition to our minimal impact, even though it's substantial to us, it's minimal compared to others, we have contributed so much. We are the largest economy in Canada, Ontario is, and part of our substantial economic growth and development is based on the automotive industry, which is the most impactful industry in Ontario. It is the one that is growing the most, and it is the reason that net emissions are expected to continue to grow in Ontario, despite our tremendous effective change that we have made in our grid, in our power grid. Our automotive emissions are growing so much that we're expecting to go back up. So honestly, what we have done by canceling this program is a huge slap in the face to people all around who are suffering so much from this. Just a quick example, Bangladesh is one of the areas that is most expected to be impacted in the whole world, and they are literally relocating millions of people. They are changing their entire agricultural system because their land is getting inundated with salt water. They cannot grow food the way they are used to. Or look at, Kenya, which is one of the world climate leaders, in fact, but their land at the same time is desertifying at rates unprecedented. Now, of course, desertification, I'm an academic, so I have to put in my academic thing here. Of course, desertification is a natural process, but climate change is increasing its effects, moving the time horizons forward such that the impacts are beyond what their society is used to dealing with, beyond what they are perhaps even able to deal with. And we in Ontario, you say, oh, they're so far away. We're a provincial government or a provincial group. We can't really even conceive of helping people all the way over in Kenya. And it's true, that job does fall on the federal government, but we in Ontario can and must have an effect. Climate change for them is a threat multiplier, so it's making worse everything that they are currently experiencing, all the poverty, all the social inequality, all the other environmental impacts, and it is causing migration. The first great climate migration has already occurred. We saw it in Syria, and fortunately it didn't really impact Ontario, but in the future it is very likely that there will be substantial migrations of refugees, and nobody wants to be a refugee, and nobody wants to deal with the extreme additional social pressure of adding all these refugees to a country. Of course we want to take them in, but the fact is it's harder than it would have been if they could have just lived in their own country and lived in the way that they would have preferred to, likely, rather than going through the stress of this migration. So we will be impacted by all these international actions, as well as those direct impacts of the floods and the storms and the fires. This is also the Bill 4, which is repealing our cap and trade. This is not a symbolically important action, okay? This is a concretely important action. It is directly reducing our emissions. And it's not just us, right? We are partnering with Quebec and California, which would be a massive win because it would demonstrate that in two of the most polluting countries in the world per capita, the largest economies can continue to grow economically, can reduce emissions, and can prove that it can be done in an efficient way. Ours would have been an amazing demonstration of the potential of this action, which was already demonstrated in economic models and is the subject of this year's Nobel Prize in Economics. But we've decided to move away from all of this. We've decided to pretend that the global impacts of climate change are not going to happen. We've decided to pretend that those global impacts will not have impacts right here in our country, now and in the future. And we have decided to abandon the most vulnerable among us, future generations, and those people who will be experiencing these negative impacts, the ones who won't be able to get flood insurance, the ones whose homes will burn down, those people who depend on forests for their jobs. We have abandoned all of them with this action, and we are right to demand that if they won't do the most efficient and best solution, they'll do something else. This would have been the best, but if they're really determined, they have to prove to us that they have an alternative proposal. So thank you very much.